मैं रिकॉर्ड कर लेता हूँ।
Hello everyone. So, right now we are representing the hacker community, or what do we say, developer community of Kharagpur. So basically, we would like to convey what we want from this whole discussion. So basically, this is about two sections of people. First one, the emerging developers of Kharagpur, and the second one, the professors. What? So let's start with the trivial experience we had. So there is this alumni of ours from Kharagpur. His name is Ashwin. Maybe you know or you know. So we asked him, he's an MIT, and we asked him what is the difference between MITs and IITs. Like there is even distribution of talent, but still MITs have got name, but IITs are still lagging behind in the global index. So he replied very validly that MITs get funds to work on students' ideas. Like students can work on their own ideas, while IITs get funds with ideas for students to work on. So it's like we work on someone else's idea rather than innovating, developing our own new ideas, brainstorming on new things. So through the subsequent talks or subsequent slides, we'll show what we as developer community are doing. What we want emerging developers or the one who can create new things to come with their own ideas, and let's explore together what we can achieve together. Furthermore, for professors, it was meant to be chill, professors are so.
Hello everyone, I'm Naresh. First to start with, I'll talk about MetaKGP. So MetaKGP is it's an umbrella that was started about 3 years ago, and what we wanted to do was basically to share two things. So I guess this slide says this one. So there's just one line that I like the most in this slide, which is that we celebrate freedom and openness. So by openness, we mean that ideas should be open and they should be shared with everyone. So if you have an idea, then you should be able to work on it. So it should never happen that some cool project is being worked on, but you never know how it was done. So you should be able to contribute to an idea openly. So that is what we try to celebrate the most. And also, we also believe that information should also not be just secluded to a particular group. Information should also be open. So that is another thing that we strive for. So to start with, I guess to start with, one of our first projects that we started with was the wiki. How many of you have seen the wiki, or at least know the existence of a wiki? Cool. So it's there are still some of you have not seen. So basically, the important idea of a wiki is that, of course, so every one of us like seeing information on the wiki. So it's like we search for something and we find it on the wiki and we become happy, but we never contribute back. So that was one of the major reasons of starting this, that we are first of all sharing all the learning, sharing all the ideas on the wiki, and in future people should be able to benefit from it. And right now I'm pretty sure, so there's a lot of guides that are written in the wiki that will be very, very beneficial to a lot of people. So, and I wouldn't say that it's MetaKGP who did it. MetaKGP just created the wiki, but it's the students who contribute to it. So I would highly encourage everyone to go back and try to just edit any page. Whatever information you know that you think it's not on the wiki, add it to the wiki. So yeah, there's a lot of guides, you can go through all of those, and there are course pages, there are details about props which we'll come to soon. And going ahead, Yeah, so these are some of the stats that we have for the wiki. So the wiki currently has 3,500 pages. This was started about 2.5 to 3 years back, and right now it has 3,500 pages and about 800 users so far. So it's definitely improving.
Okay, I would like to add just one more line there. It is like you can compare it with like Wikipedia for Kanappur.
Yeah. Of course. So the wiki is supposed to be like a Wikipedia for Kanappur, and that is why we started it. So like the next most important project that we have that we know for a fact that a lot of you use is MFQP. So what happens here is that, of course, the library site usually, so it has a limited set of papers, but and sometimes it goes down, sometimes we have some problems. So to mitigate that, what we have done is that we have mirrored all the papers that are on the library, and we also every semester, during mid-semester and during end semester, we collect papers submitted by the students. So basically we have a library which is larger than the library site in itself. And like we have just given you a search engine to search for. So this is current, like during the exam season, this is being used by thousands of people. And so this is one of the projects that we have built. And the next one would be MCMP. So this is one that we feel that is very useful for the students. So a lot of us want to work on projects, but we never really know like who is working on the field of interest that you have. So let's say I want to work in machine learning. I need to know which are the professors in campus working on machine learning. Then, so we have created a reverse index from all profs to the fields of interest that they work in, so that you can just search through the field of interest which profs are working on it. So this, we think, right now the data we have is very limited. We have collected it from ERP and otherwise, but this can definitely be improved, and this is something that we would like to see your contribution in. And the next project that you
yes, will you allow me to use this?
Of course,
I need this thing every day.
Of course, yeah, I know. So we want people to use it. So it's actually available on the open, and like we can share the link. Right. And the next project that we have is notice board aggregator. So how many of you know, people know that there is an internal notice board that works only within the proxy? So they have a lot of notices. They have UG notices, they have PG notices, and some other, like lots of notices. So a lot of important things come there, and this is not the original site. So a lot of important notices come there that we never, like we always miss out on. So what we went out and built is that, so, and these notices are spread, like there are 3-4 notice boards that are available. So we just brought everything in one place. So all these notice boards are populated in this one dashboard. And more importantly, every time there's a new notice, we send an email to the students who are subscribed to this. So we think that a lot of people miss out on like scholarship notices, they miss out on MCM notices and all of these things that we think that should have been solved by now. So we are trying to do that with this project. And this dashboard that you're seeing, so we have a lot of other features that we are planning to implement this year, so we will be bringing those as well. So for instance, the courses. So with courses, what we want to do is that you should be able to, every semester when you're trying to pick your subjects, you should be able to make a very knowledgeable choice on like this subject has these are the course contents. If you're worried about the grades, we also populate the grades of the previous year from the ERP. So we feel that all of these things will be useful, and that we went out and built this. So here are some of our other projects. So GYFT is one of the other projects that we feel it's very small but very useful. So currently our ERP timetable is in HTML and it's within ERP, and it's difficult to add it to your calendar. So GYFT just does that. It takes the timetable from your ERP and just adds it to your Google Calendar. Simple, straightforward, but very useful. And similarly, Narad is for people who don't use Facebook. So if you are still interested in getting the news from some of the popular sites, like popular pages in KGP, then Narad does that for you. And Blackjack was for the fetching grades. So we have a lot of other smaller projects that are all available on our MetaKGP GitHub that you can all look into. Most importantly, anyone can come and contribute. and some of the other events that we conduct. So Demo Days was something that we started this year. What we do with Demo Days is that, I mean, of course, so MetaKGP is not an organization. It's just a bunch of people who come together and put their projects here. But we still know for a fact that there are a lot of students who work on a lot of other cool projects, but it never comes out in the light of the day. So that's what we started Demo Day for. So with Demo Days, we are encouraging people to come and demo whatever project they have worked on, even if it is trivial, even if it is something small. If you have built something for the community, then you should demo it. So we have had 4 Demo Days so far. We have written all blog posts on the Medium. You can go back and read. And we would really love it if you guys can come for the next Demo Day as well. And Hack Days is on a similar line. So with Hack Days, we want people who are looking for ideas or who are looking for help to work on their projects. We just come together at one place on a predefined day, and we just hack on something for 6 days. We just work on something and we build it. So this is something we do. Talks is we don't want to restrict ourselves to only technical stuff. So with talks, we are so of course KGP has a lot of very different people who have very different passions. So and people learn a lot through their years in KGP. So with MetaKGP talks, we are basically inviting a few of these people to share their experiences with you. And this was also done last year. So what are our goals? Our final goal is that we want people to come forward and contribute to. So basically, if you are passionate about something and you need help or you need a place to put your projects that you think will benefit the community, then this is the umbrella for you. It's not an organization that you have to go through selections or you need to apply for anything. You just come talk to us and we'll help you get your project out. That's it. So Kshitij will continue with the slides for costs.
Hello guys, my name is Kshitij. I'm going to talk about what is cost and what do we do. So how many of you know about costs? Okay, so we are the third for Open Source Society, and so what do we do? So we are just a bunch of students, undergraduate students, who volunteer for encouraging the open source movement within the campus as well as in and around KGP. Not necessarily within the campus for the open source students, but across India. So what is cost? So the first thing that we do primarily is conduct workshops, programming workshops. We conducted Dual Boot Fest, Get and Pick Up workshops in the autumn semester for introducing students to open source technologies and installing operating systems. Apart from that, we conduct workshops on Python, JavaScript, Golang, which were organized during Open Source Summit. So basically what we want to do is we want to give students the power to know about stuff that goes into making software and also the ability to create software. So our workshops, basically what happened was that
last year we were contacted by the people from NIT Sikkim, and they called us to host a workshop, a 2-day workshop on open source. And it went on day 1 we introduced them to open source and how Linux works and some basic commands of Linux terminal. And next day we had a hands-on session on Git and GitHub. So we taught them how Git works, about pull requests of GitHub and other things. And we had a list of issues and helped them resolve the issues on GitHub. But the workshop was attended by around 150 students.
So the second thing that we did was conduct the Open Source Summit during 2018. So what was conducted? There were 6 workshops in parallel tracks for the programming languages, the things that we showed earlier. And the important thing was these workshops were open to non-IITian students who visited KGP for attending Kshitij. So we are not restricted to only KGPians and that sort of thing. So also, so it was a 2-day event. On the second day, we conducted professional talks and we invited speakers from all over India to contribute to open source software. And so this is Harsh Gupta. He's an alumni of KGP, and he was a keynote speaker. And he gave a talk on community is more important than code. So this exemplifies what we are trying to achieve in KGP. we're trying to build a community of people who believe in the philosophy of open source software rather than having a siloed environments where people don't interact with each other. So, yeah. So the third most important thing that we do is conduct Kharagpur Winter of Code. So how many of you know about Kharagpur Winter of Code? So Kharagpur Winter of Code is a 1 month long program where we introduce people to open source world. Basically, through our workshops, the people get to know about the technologies, and through this, they get an intro to how to contribute to projects. So these are some stats that we have for the past 2 years for Kharagpur Winter of Code. So as you can see, so rather than the stats, I would like to tell something about the stats. So as you can see, the number of students registered in 2017 is almost equivalent to the strength of entire first and second year undergraduate students. 2,700 plus. The projects registered more than 100, and the mentors are not necessarily within KGP. The majority of them are from outside of Kharagpur. And even we have mentors from outside India. Plus, we also had students from outside India contributed to the project and talk with us and share their experience. So we help basically around 270 people in making their first contribution to any project. So to summarize, this is what we do in technical terms. But this is what we want to do. We want to build a community of people who can easily communicate with each other, share their problems, and learn and evolve. So yeah, so basically we are here to empower people, empower others. The students in specific, because they are what we cater to, because we ourselves are students, and the KGP community at large. So yeah, so that we can come together and build something cool.
Good evening, sir. So I'll quickly go through the project that we had demoed from MetaKGP today. So the first project that we had demoed was this wiki. So basically, we built Wikipedia for KGP. So this Wikipedia is actually currently live, and it has been live for the past 3 years. And we have collected all sorts of information in this wiki. So of course, if you want to know about any student communities, you want to know about competitions, you want information about all the places that are within KGP, and most importantly, if you there are a lot of there are pages for each and every subject, each and every professor, and with the grade distribution as well. And we have a lot of student written guides. So students, of course, they have a lot of information that they have gained through their years in KGP. So all of those are written as proper guides within our within the wiki. So this is one of the most important contributions that we have made to the community within KGP. And the second project this is the stats for the wiki. Currently, we have close to 3,500 pages and 800 registered users. So these many people actually use our wiki. And this is another project that we built where we basically so sometimes the library site goes down, or sometimes we don't find the papers we need. So what we do is we mirror the library site, and also we collect papers every mid-semester and end-semester from the students, so that we have a very exhaustive. And I guess last year we collected close to 600, 700 papers just from the students. So we feel that this project is used by actually thousands during the exam. So we think this is one of our very useful projects that we have made. And you can just search for whatever course you want, and the papers will be available. And these are available for more than the last 10 years or so. And the next one is, so for a lot of students face a problem that they are not able to find which professor is working on the field of the research field they are interested in. So we basically just created a mapping, and we made a simple search engine for them, so that they can just search for the research area that they are interested in, and they can easily just find the professors who are working there. So this is something that we feel is very useful. And the next one is that we have a lot of internal notice boards within KGP that the students that never reach the students. The notices never reach the students because they are currently within the they are in some sites that a lot of people don't know. So what we have done is, we are getting the notices from those places. We populate them all in one place, and most importantly, for students who are interested, they can subscribe to this list and they'll get emails as and when a new notices arrive. So, and similarly, we have a lot of other projects that we continuously work on. So some of them are here. For example, like people can directly add the timetables to their Google calendars, and then there is one project which will basically get the most important news from the Facebook pages for the important pages within KGP. So these are some of the projects that we built. And similarly, we have some events. So Demo Day is one where we build. We strongly believe that a lot of student projects never come to the day of the light of the day. So we want people to come and demo their projects so that we broadcast this on YouTube and we write a proper blog post at the end of it all. So basically, a lot of students come and they demo their projects there. And Hack Days is where we basically come together and work on any project. So this is something that we feel will help students who are stuck or who need collaborators. And and one more is that we conduct some talks so that people can come and share their experiences. So these are something that I guess we'll go on to the next talk.
Thank you, Nishank, Kshitij, and Naresh. Now, quickly moving forward, you all might be, everybody has a ERP user, everybody here is a ERP user, and you might be facing many problems with ERP, and you might be cursing ERP as a human. So, Siddharth is coming up with what is the future of ERP, how ERP would be if it has an API or something like that. So, let's welcome Siddharth.
So hi, my name is Siddharth, and I'm going to talk about why we think a developer-friendly ERP is important. So we'll be answering two questions here. One is why, and the second one is what. So the first question is why. Why do we think a developer-friendly ERP is a goal worth working towards? And there are a few reasons for this, and we had internal discussions to sort of compile everything together. And the first one is that the ERP has a lot of data. Everyone is on the ERP, everyone is using it, and it has data that is sensitive, sure, but there is also data that's not sensitive, like list of courses or list of professors, timetables, and these this data can lead to interesting projects. Already there are a lot of projects around the ERP, like GYFT, or there are projects that compile the whole course list for a semester, and then you can search through it. But these projects always have a huge friction before they begin, because the data is structured inside the ERP, but we can't get it directly. You have to go to the ERP, save HTML, do some HTML parsing, and then once you have the data, you can build the product. So instead, if developers could directly get the data, then there will be even more projects and it will be very accessible. And the second thing is delegation. So because the ERP is so important to everyone on campus, what ends up happening is that the people who work on the ERP have a lot on their plate. They have to make sure that the ERP is always working, they have to make sure all the sections of it are working, and ultimately the product side of things suffers. So we have the ERP, but we don't have any products around the ERP. Instead, they can delegate this work. If we had a developer-friendly ERP, they would be able to delegate this work to students who are interested to work in this area. Because first of all, it's good for students who are using these products. Their life will become better. The students who are building these products learn skills, and that's good for them. And the people who are running the ERP have products around the ERP that they did not build, but are still secure and can be shared properly. So Yeah, so these are the, this is the summary. There's useful data on the ERP that can lead to interesting projects, and this is good for the people who run the ERP because they can delegate some of their work to it. Oh, so that was the why section of it. Now the second section is what. What do we think are additions to the ERP which would make it more developer friendly? And these are the two things that we sort of coalesced around. And the first one is open authentication, and the second one is public API access to some of the not sensitive data on the ERP. So open authentication, for those of you who don't know, is what powers login with Google and login with Facebook across the internet. The main idea is that when you log in with Google or Amazon, you should not have to give Amazon your Google password. Instead, you prove to Amazon that you have a Google account, and you allow Google to share some of your data with Amazon. And Amazon cannot see the other data in your account. So this is a secure, properly vetted, really old protocol that almost every big company implements. Yeah. So this is the guarantee that OAuth gives you. It gives a third-party secure delegated access to your resources. Now, if ERP was to become an OAuth identity provider, what that would end up doing is it would open, you could build services that directly target everyone who's a current student engaged. And because anyone except a current student does not have an ERP account, the access thing is completely abstracted away. So you can build services that are targeted towards current students. One of the examples this is the simplest example. So right now, to convert the timetable to a calendar file, what we do is we ask the user to go to the ERP, go to the timetable, save it as an HTML, and then run a Python script. So this is 4 steps, and this does 2 things. One, it's really long, and 2, it cuts out a lot of people who would never use this because they don't know how to use Python, they're simply not interested. They do want to use the product, but they don't want to do this effort. If ERP was an OAuth identity provider, then what would happen is you simply go there and you do login with ERP. The ERP gives the timetable data to the product, and we just convert it to a calendar file. And once you have a calendar file, you can import it and you can use all the native functionality of a calendar. You can have notifications, you can have reminders, you can schedule things around your classes so that there's never a clash. And this is one of the simplest examples. There are a lot of services like the TNP thing. You can actually email final year students about new notices in CDs. So this is also part of the ERP, and we have not been able to implement this yet, mainly because there is no authentication framework. And if we did implement it, then anyone would be able to join and get these emails, which is not what we want, which is not what anyone. So yeah, so that was open authentication, and the second thing is public API access. So the whole the crux of this is that ERP has a lot of data. Some of it is sensitive, yes, but some of it is not sensitive. And if developers could get rate limited access to the not sensitive data, then they could build projects around it. So we have a bunch of examples for this. The first one is the list of courses offered this semester. So I've been registering for additional courses since my 5th semester, and finding a course that I want to do and is also feasible for me to do, slots and everything considered, has been really hard. Every semester I've had to reinvent the wheel, and every student has to do this. There's no common method that everyone can use. Instead, if the ERP had an API endpoint where you could get all the courses, what you would simply do is get all the courses, index it in a full text search engine like Elasticsearch, and then build a web front end to it. Now, what you could do is, once you have the web front end, any student could go there and say, I want to do a course in cryptography. So I just type cryptography, and I'll get a list of courses that are around this topic, and I can choose what to do and what not to do. Prerequisite trees. This is something that has been a problem all the time. So distributed systems is a computer science course that has 3 prerequisites, and each of those courses have 2 prerequisites each. So eventually, when you finally build this tree in your head or on paper, you realize that you can't take this. So if in my second year there had been some way to visualize this tree, then I would have done all these courses before like my 4th year or my final year and been able to take that course. Faculty officers. This was something that came up again and again in our internal discussions, which was that it's really hard to meet a professor. And the whole point is that professors are busy, they have classes, they have events, they go out of station and all this stuff. So if we could take the classes variable out of it, then we would know like when a professor has a class and where, and then you'd be able to better predict when they might be in their offices to meet them. And meetings can have like any reason, MTP, research projects, and things like that. Yeah, so these are the two things that we think should be added to the ERP to make it more developer friendly. So open authentication and public API access that's rate limited and secure and all that stuff. Okay, so our goal with this session is really to build a culture of self-help among students. So we don't want students to be dependent on someone else to build products for them. If you want something, you go out there, you learn the skills, you need to build that, and then you build it. And if we can do this with cooperation from the ERP, then it would be probably one of the best things to happen to a developer inside KGP after the internet. So yeah, we like to call it a win-win-win situation. So it's a win for the students who are using the products, it's a win for the students who are developing the products, and it's a win for the people who run the ERP, because they now have a great product and a lot of small products around it that they did not build but can take credit for. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening to me, and thanks a lot for that.
Thanks for this great talk, Siddharth. Now, how many of you have used this CV module in ERP? अगले मैं ही बोल रहा हूँ, कोई नहीं आ रहा. How many of you have used CV module in ERP? Please raise your hands. CV module. So okay, only few. So basically, what I tell is this CV module in ERP is the most irritating thing that a person who is sitting for an internship or a placement has to suffer. Okay. So what is our idea now is we have to create a robust and a cross-platform CV module which is inside ERP. So let's see why we need it. So suppose now the existing module interacts with server for every small and simple change. Suppose if you want to add a space in your CV, you have to add space and click on update. It goes to the server, take 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 6 seconds to reload, and you see the effect. So this is one of the main problem. And it works differently in Chrome and Firefox. A bad tragedy happened with me is I made all my 3 CVs in Chrome, and my Chrome crashed and it opened in Firefox. Boom, everything is gone. So I need to create it all again. So my 4 days of work is lost. So it entirely different. It works differently in Google and Firefox. And the typical time for update, a small space or anything you update, it's nearly 8 to 10 seconds. And when it's peak use, like when the deadline usually comes, it's around 30 to 45 seconds. And obviously timeouts after repeated edits. And it's not friendly for companies to shortlist. So this is the look that you're seeing. This is how a CV module looks in your ERP. Like it's basically a lengthy Google form that you need to fill before you sit for CDC internships or CDC placements. So the data that you see in blue is already freeze that you get from ERP. And these are all the fields that you need to fill. See those red circles over there. So those spaces that have been created after fighting a lot, like after fighting for 10 to 15 minutes, after repeated adjustments, I get that optimal spaces that are filled in those ERPs. So for generating that spaces, I need to fight for 10 to 15 minutes. So it's very, out of your time when you start preparing for placements, you need to do all this stuff. Next. So see those red circles, yellow circles over there. In the first yellow circle above there, you cannot use square brackets, you cannot use hyphens, because if you use them while the data compiles and produces a PDF, you get strange characters or your entire text will be black. So these are, I don't know why this happens. And in the second yellow circle that you see, there are no bullet points in this module of the ERP. So if you want to add a bullet in your CV, what you need to do is you search for bullet in Wikipedia, copy that bullet and paste it over here. And you do it multiple times. So yeah, this is the stuff. So what we use is उतना fight नहीं मारना हमको बस एक iPhone से काम चला देता है. So I just use iPhone in my CV. So some people fight for it and use bullets. So this is how a company interface looks like. So I just created a test account for a company. So what a company does is it also fills a Google sheet. Like what is its company profile, how much is it's going to give for the people who it's going to pick, and what are all the departments from which it likes to pick students or something like that. And it releases it. You get a notification on CDC and you apply CRP. So now how companies get data for shortlisting? They just get a simple CSV file. Roll number, name, gender, CGPA, 10th कहाँ किया है, 12th कहाँ किया है, क्या प्रोजेक्ट किया है, क्या इंटर्न किया है, ये सब बड़ा सा एक CSV फाइल बनेगा. Like there is no visual interaction, कि there is no infographics that how many people know R, how many people know C. आप लोग अपने दोस्तों में सुनते ही होंगे कि यार मेरा तो CFA है पर बैंक में शॉर्टलिस्ट नहीं आया. Like entirely the profile is requiring the skills of CFA, but his CV is not being shortlisted. So ऐसा सब problems क्यों हो रहा है? Because like there is no infographics which are used to, there is no charts, there are no pie graphs, there are no bar diagrams which are given to company which are used for shortlisting. They just get a simple CSV file which is a combination of all your CVs. So like this is the average time that a user of ERP, a student who is sitting for internship or a placement spends this much time for making 3 CVs. Like a 5 working days, 5 working days, it's like around 40 to 50 hours. Some night outs also, because when the server dies and doesn't care about your requests. So what is the solution for this? I predict 2 solutions over it. One is like how Kannan mentioned, like a sensitive access to non-sensitive data and building a better ERP platform. And the second thing is using the local software. How many of you know LaTeX? Yeah, pretty good. Like if you use LaTeX in Windows, you basically use a software called TechMaker to format LaTeX document. So it's basically local. If you make any change, you just compile it, locally you get a PDF. So software which runs local, it's required, it's damn required, because for every edit, I can't just wait for server to respond, right? So what are the key things that you need to consider in the solution? Grammar check. The current CV module doesn't give you a grammar check. Like if you're writing easy 1,000 times or 3 times, it doesn't tell you that you please do not do this. So basically we want an intelligent and interactive CV builder, right? Suppose people who are having more PORs, they write, I spearheaded a team of 18 people. They use spearheaded, leaded, like many times. But this looks really awkward on CV. If you have an intelligent natural language processing plugin inside it, so it will suggest, bhai ye sab mat kar. ठीक है. So if you have this natural language plugins and grammar checks, so it can boost the readability of your CV. If you are using more verbs, unnecessary verbs, it can, boost the readability of it. And please make it user friendly. It should be user friendly. And as I said, it should, on the selector's end, it should present some infographics. Like how many people, what is the distribution of people over the CGPAs, what are the skills they have, the shortlisting criteria. Selectors should feel that ये data इतना सुंदर से मिला है, चलो सबको tick मारते हैं. So the main effect is to like maximize the shortlist. And yeah, I would like you developers who are sitting over there to pick this a project through MetaKGP or COS or something like that. Of course, this is really a huge project. It requires say like many hundred of man-hours and like say 5 to 6 people or something like that. But of course, you need money for this. Our institute has resources. Like the first is SGSS. Like Professor Pallab Das Gupta is sitting over here, and he will explain about it. SGS grant. It's a 10 lakh grant given to an undergraduate project by Sponsored Research and Industrial Consultancy. And the second is undergraduate portal, Professor Adrijit Goswami is also sitting over here, chairman ERP. If he floats this as a project under him, under undergraduate portal, so you can all join, and of course for some stipend. And our alumni also have given some amount. Our deputy director will be speaking about it, how much have they given and what is the module of funding or something like that. So if you take this up, you will definitely earn, say, a lakh or something. Next. Yeah. Thank you. This was my presentation. Coming up next, like we see in this room also, like the ratio of women is to men is very low. I mean, its ratio is skewed. So my batchmate Ayushi Brigade has come up with this unique idea of like bringing women onto a platform. Like all the women who are enthusiasts, in technical fields, and women in areas of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and management to come together and work and build some cool things or something like that. With this motive, she started an organization. She and along with some others started an organization called Lean In. So I'd like to welcome Ayushi Brigade to speak a few words regarding this organization.
Hello. Hello everyone. So first of all, no, Lean In was not started by me. How many of you have heard of Lean In before? Yeah, so that's a few of you, but I'll still give an introduction on what it is and why we started it in Kharagpur and what we have done so far. So first of all, what is Lean In? So do you know the woman in the picture? How many of you know the woman? Yeah. So she's Sheryl Sandberg. She's the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook. She wrote a book in 2013 called Lean In. The basic idea of the book was targeting women in the workplace. She talks about the various biases that still exist, the various challenges that women still face, and then encourages women to still go ahead and overcome them and to be successful in their own fields. So the reason this book became so popular was because it was very, very relatable to girls across the world of various ages, women in the workplace, etc. So after the success of the book, she started this organization called leanin.org. So the basic way in which this organization functions is that girls come together in a group of say 15 to 20 of them, and they work together and talk about their own goals, their ambitions, and the basic idea is to grow with each other and support each other. So 2 years back I met Tanya, who started the first Lean In chapter in India. So she started it in her college in New Delhi, and the basic idea with which she started it was because she saw that the girls around her, it was a girls-only college, girls-only engineering college, and she saw that a lot of girls were not ambitious or were not, pushing very hard towards their dream, which is not what is required in the world today, right? So, but in Kharagpur, that's not a problem. Like, we see a lot of girls here who are pretty ambitious, who want to do a lot of things. But then I realized that there still exists an inequality in terms of opportunities that we get in our own college life, just because of the fact that we are in a very huge minority. Like mostly it's like 10% girls in the UG section at least. So I realized that through all these stories that I had also heard that there's some inequality that exists. Like the life of a college student who is a guy is not same as the life of a college student who is a girl in a place like IIT Kharagpur. And I think this is the most important slide of my presentation. And when I was coming up with these reasons why we started Lean In, I was like, this is a huge list and I don't know where to stop, where to start, because there's so many personal experiences and of experiences of girls that I've heard from. So I'll just stick to 4 very simple, small examples that we face on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing is that if you've noticed, most girls go and end up studying alone or go and do group projects also alone in their room. And the basic problem is that there are so few girls in each department. Like in my own case, there's just one other girl in my batch of 54 people. She's an SN, I'm an MT. So from the first year itself, I've been used to studying alone because it's very difficult to get all the guys, like some of the guys also from their halls all the way to the library or to the Makbu room, just to study with me or one other girl, right? And it's also understandably inconvenient for them. So that's one thing that's there. The second thing is that in spite of the fact that every batch has approximately 100 girls, we're just so scattered across societies, across different departments, that most girls do not have a lot of female friends or a lot of female peers who they can look up to when they're looking for something that they are interested. So, for example, if I was interested in building an Android application in my first year, I would have to go ahead and look for guys to work with because I just didn't know that there were any other girls who were interested in doing the same. But for guys, their first preference will always be to choose guys around them because, again, it's just easier to work with guys in their rooms and, it's just easier to do so. The third thing was that in a lot of societies and research groups, because of the fact that girls are so few in number, they end up dropping out. So, for example, if a girl ends up clearing all the task rounds of AGV or KR industry, she will still be the only girl in the batch, and unless she feels, so a lot of times she just feels so left out that after 6 months or a few months, she just ends up dropping out. And this is a trend that we have seen over the years, and we want to solve things like this. The fourth thing is that it's because guys are in the maturity and because there are so few girls, sometimes unknowingly there are certain biases or sexist comments that are propagated. So, just a few days back, there was a junior who came to me and was describing this incident where there was a technical project and it was said that, there were all other guys and she was the only girl in the group. And it was just concluded that, we can probably handle the coding part. You're a girl, so you can write well, and so maybe you take care of the project report part. And this is a very small thing, and I'm sure that they did it very unknowingly and just in jest. But small things like this end up playing with the confidence of girls. And we heard a lot of stories where this happens, and if it keeps happening, it ends up demotivating the girls themselves, taking up technical courses or technical fields, and they themselves start feeling that, okay, maybe I'm not fit for it. So these were the small things that we noticed was happening on campus. And so the basic idea with which we were started was that there is an equal opportunity or an equal experience in the college life that exists for both guys and girls. So we started last semester only just with a few girls, like there were 15 to 20 girls in our first season circle. And we meet every week, we still meet every week. And the idea of the learning circle is basically, we try to have one activity at least, focusing on something that we want to learn. Sometimes we talk about our long-term goals. There was one activity focusing on this lack of confidence that I was talking about, and we had a huge discussion about how we can overcome it. And we also try to make sure that every meeting is taken by a separate girl so that each girl gets the chance to lead and organize that meeting. And the idea is to again create the peer group, which I said was missing in my first slide. And also to give a so when these discussions happen, girls realize that, okay, fine, this is an okay thing to happen, this is something that's happening, and this can be dealt with. So a lot of people had very positive responses from this learning circle over the last semester. And so this semester we started taking interviews of female alumni who have succeeded in some field or the other, and we started publishing them through our Facebook page. That photo is us meeting Sudeshna ma'am, and we had a nice discussion with her for about 2 hours. So the idea behind this is again to inspire girls. So in Kharagpur, when we see another KGPN performing well or doing something well in life, we are filled with a sense of pride, right? So as a girl also, when I see some girl doing well, one, I'm filled with a sense of pride. And also when I hear her story of how she was in college and how she overcame if she faced any difficulties or what she did, and I just feel so, her stories are just so relatable to me as a student that I feel like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too. So that was the idea with which this thing was started. Right now, students, alumni had also contacted us, and we are trying to get more senior alums to interview with us. And also these interviews are taken by girls who are studying in IIT Kharagpur right now. So this gives them an opportunity to talk to someone who they have considered their own role model and to interact with them on a personal level. The next thing is workshops, about which Shika and Tita will be talking more in the next PPT. But the basic idea again is in the first and the second year, we want to target these girls who are interested in something very specific and have discussion groups or workshops regarding them. So as I told you before, we have just started last semester and mostly this sem. So we have a lot of things still remaining to do. We want to do mentorship programs. We want to increase participation of girls also in Tech GC events. Expanding circles to not just UG students, which is the case right now. And there are a lot of senior female alums, as I said, who are interested in coming to Kharagpur, mentoring female alums, giving them talks. So we want to do that also in association with societies which are already doing so. So that's it from my side. I know that this was just an introduction about cleaner and what we have done so far. Pizza and Shikha will talk more about the tech workshops that we are planning to do, why we are planning to do them, and how.
Thanks, Harshi, for a wonderful talk. Now we'll start with the talks from our professors. Like they have heard so far, like what are the problems and what are all required facilities. So now I'd like to request our Deputy Director, Professor Sriman Kumar Bhattacharya, to talk on opportunities for funding for this open source projects, lab spaces, etc. Sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. My colleagues, Professor Das Gupta, Professor Goswami, my dear students, a very good evening to you all. It's nice that you have brought in one platform to demonstrate that what are the activities that you have taken up and you have started developing things. I think that's a very good step. And it's important that anything we develop, anything we start thinking that which is useful for the society, for the community. The important aspect is the implementation. That, whenever we try to do something, we must think that how we are going to implement it. And implementation means it has two aspects. One is the dissemination, and second is the sustainability. That how do you disseminate what you are aiming for in an appropriate manner, and that has to be decided, when you plan to. And second thing, you must realize that how to continue this. It's not just one-time effort. Do it, have it for some time, and then that's the end of it. It has to be continued. So the sustainability is very important. So these two aspects have to be kept in mind. And keeping that in mind, you will have to develop programs, you will have to build it. Institute is ready to extend all kinds of help, wherein we feel that these are useful for the community, and particularly the student community are the beneficiaries of it. Particularly when I see the program that you have thought of, like linking some things with the ERP process to understand the courses, to know more about the courses, which courses are being loaded in a particular semester, who are the teachers who are offering, what are the prerequisites. I think these information are certainly important for a student to plan for. And we have to discuss it more with our professors who are looking into the ERP system, how these links are being provided to you, what are the difficulties that you are facing. And if we do not come together and interact with each other, possibly we won't be able to resolve it. But certainly these are very great steps that you people have taken. Aspect that you talked about, the lean-in, I think it's a very good effort by our girl students. This was necessary, and this is necessary, because many a times we find that many aspects are decided at the institute level, but again, it does not reach to each individual, each student, which is very important. I do not know how many of you have heard of the term called ICC. Have you heard of it? You see, there's how many? Only one hand is raised. You see, this is not right. ICC is a term which is expansion of which is Internal Complaint Committee, and this is against the sexual harassment for the untoward incident for the girls. Now, even girl students do not know about it. And that's not right. In fact, institute is absolutely, has zero tolerance on this activity, and institute is very serious on this. So I think this particular forum should take up activities to generate awareness among the masses. Each and every student should be aware of that such process exists, such activity exists, where somebody can come back. And this is one just example I cited here. There are many things on which institute has several programs, and possibly it's not getting disseminated properly to the general masses. And that's where we need to play a greater role, so that each and every individual is aware of what's happening, what is needed, and how it is being done. I must congratulate this student group who have taken this initiative, take this forward, disseminate in an appropriate manner, so that you can use them effectively and come up with more ideas to improve them. Secondly, Sri Sagar was talking about the students' projects, and as he said that there are 3 aspects now on which Institute is gearing up and who already have been opened. One is by the Dean Street, which is what you call it as? SGSI. And then the other one is the UG portal, the other day which was launched in Netaji. The third aspect is the alumni have come forward. They said that they are going to give us around 56 lakhs for a period of 4 years. So what we have planned is that in fact we are going to place this in the coming Senate. The Senate has appointed a committee which is being chaired by me, and we have 2 other colleagues who are looking into the modalities of operating this particular fund in terms of project. So what we have decided is that any students who have completed 4 semesters after the second year, is eligible to apply for the project. So once these projects are applied for, it will be peer reviewed by the peers in the area. And what we are planning is that there will be a group of 2 students each. And these students either could be from the same department or it could be across the departments. And then these 2 students can, submit a project proposal which will be reviewed. And we are going to possibly approve projects which are around 15 to 20 in number per year. And after the end of each semester, these projects will be reviewed. And if we find that the projects which are promised, which are going well, they will be allowed to continue for the coming semesters. And those who will not be able to perform to the satisfaction level, we will have to drop them, and possibly a certificate will be given that he had participated or she had participated. But these projects which will have merit and can take forward to the upcoming semesters, at the end of the 8th semester possibly, or towards the end of 7th and 8th semester, this can be taken up as a DTP project. So this is what we are planning, and we are going to place this before Senate. And once Senate approves that, possibly that will be launched as well. So this is one aspect of the projects in which you can come up with different ideas and think for innovative projects. Another aspect that Institute has is going to launch from next July. The students will be joining the Institute from the coming semester, coming academic year. For them, we are introducing 2 laboratories which we are calling as Do It Yourself Laboratory, DIY lab, and a genomics lab, where students will have free hand to work on, and that will be introduced right from the first semester. The first semester, what we are going to do is that we are going to expose to all students in batches. And of course, in the first semester, possibly we will give a specific project to work on in which they will be working. And subsequent to that, those who will have interest to carry it forward and try to wish to come up with innovative projects, they can submit projects and work in that particular area. We have plans to keep these laboratories open 24/7, and that can happen only with the support of the students. So there also again we need your support. The seniors should come forward, join hands with the Institute and create groups so that we can create an environment where students can work 24/7. So these are some of the initiatives that the Institute has taken up. And as we said that we need close cooperation, collaboration among the student community along with the Institute so that these activities can be taken forward. Sri Sagar was saying that regarding fund, space, I don't think these are any hindrance at all. In the campus we are going to build buildings for the Gymkhana, not only for the upcoming event that we are going to have in 2019, the Inter-IIT sports meet, but then we certainly can create space for you to take forward these activities where you can have physical space to work on. And I'm sure that fund is not going to be a constraint if we have some constructive activities coming up from us. Okay. So with this, more I think we'll hear from Dean Sri. Dean Sri also will give some progress on funds possibly. and so all we need is that please come forward with such activities, have more discussions amongst you, have discussions with our faculty colleagues, and see that which we can take it forward, implement them in an appropriate manner, and sustain them. Now these two things are very important to me, that you disseminate in an appropriate manner, because you told me that Meta KGP you have developed and number of registration is 780, which is not even 10%, because in a community of 12,000 I find only 7% students have registered. So it should be more. Right? So dissemination has to be more, and so that each and every student will become aware of this. And then finally you must find out a way by which you can sustain this and carry forward your subjects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I'd like to invite Dean SRSC Sponsored Research and Industrial Consultancy, Professor Pallab Das Gupta, to have some words on funding. Yes, sir.
I prefer to talk from here, but not wearing the hat of the Dean Sri, because I am also a computer science person. So let me first share a few words about the open source movement that you people are taking forward. So you see, I did my undergraduate from this place, 86 to 1990. That's when all these movements had started. That's when we had just migrated from the very old paper tape kind of machines to machines in which you could do some decent amount of programming. So previously it was really not very good. And then at that time, in those times, we only had Unix as an operating system. We did not have Linux, we didn't have Windows. There was an operating system called DOS of Microsoft, which was very primitive. But Unix was really a little different because it allowed you to do a lot of things over and above the operating system. And people started capitalizing on that. But even then, whenever we had a crash or a failure or something was hanging up, you couldn't do anything about it because the software was not open source. And this, I think, was felt everywhere around the world, which is why the Linux community was born, and they said that let us build our own operating system, which we can modify and tweak to our own types of systems. And that changed the paradigm a lot, because now it was empowering the computer scientists to do things on their own. See, this open software, the open source software movement is about promoting the culture of doing things on your own. I remember a time when we were writing out PhD theses, about that time, the software that he was talking about, LaTeX, that had just about started coming in. And do you know where it got born? You know about Donald Knuth? How many of you have heard of Donald Knuth? Okay, so famous professor from Stanford. He was the author of the famous set of books on algorithms. Many of us learned our algorithms from his seminal work. At that time, he was spending a lot of time proofreading his books. In those days, people used to type out the books. They used to go to press. The press would typeset them nicely and then return it back to the author to check whether they had made any mistakes or not. And believe me, we used to do that for all our research papers as well. And that used to take a lot of time. So much time, and he had quite a few books, that he got totally fed up with this process, and he said that I am going to write my own typesetter. And he built a software which was called TeX, T-E-X. But TeX was beautiful, and he was able to use TeX to do the typesetting. It has a very nice algorithm on how you arrange the text. Also add different kinds of mathematical notation, formulas, etc. It was beautiful, except that only Knuth knew how to use it. Because the interface and the language was so cryptic that many of us, we tried to understand it, but it was absolutely, unless you were into it for several months, one could not possibly do it. Then another very famous computer scientist, his name was Leslie Lamport, and he is kind of the father of distributed algorithms, and currently a senior scientist at Microsoft Research at Seattle. He built what is called Lamport's text, and what is known as LaTeX today, that is Lamport's text. And he made a very famous, he's known for making very outrageous but really precise and incisive statements. And he mentioned that I have known two people who had very little business sense. One is Donald Knuth, because if he had patented tech and commercially exploited it, he could have made a lot of money out of it. And the second person that I know of who has little business sense is me, because I made it accessible to the entire academic community, again without patenting that. But that has now become the de facto standard in the academic community, at least in the ECS domain, and everybody writes their papers and journals using that. So, in that way, you see this community had grown over the years. And I'm happy to see that you people are thinking of open source software development. India could not have reached where it is today in software unless we had open source software. Because the Indians learned to write software, to develop software by studying this software. But we have not achieved the goal of becoming the true software powerhouse, because we have looked at software as a service, not as software as a product. Indians have traditionally helped other people develop things that they want. Like when we talk about all these applications that we're talking about, ERP, these are apps, these are applications that we want to develop over there so that it makes the usage of the ERP easier. That is software as a service. When you look at open source software, where are the products which have come out of India? Can we name even one? No. That is what we also need to target. We need to think about what will be the products of the next generation, regardless of very specific application 1, 2, and 3, and start building them. And if you have such ideas, from the institute there will be no dearth of support. Come up with original ideas for original products, and we will be there to support you. One more thing about the future. Where is the future of open source software? So what we are seeing, and I get this opportunity because I get to interact with a lot of companies every day, is that software has moved away, or rather broadened its horizons from what we had on the desktop and the mainframe machines to now almost everything. Like Professor Bhattacharya is a civil engineer. Now, health monitoring of urban infrastructure now requires a huge amount of sensing, putting the data on the cloud and running analytics on the cloud with machine learning and other kinds of algorithms. This is not isolated, it's there in every domain. You talk about healthcare, civil infrastructure, geosciences, mining, everywhere it is the same. So there is going to be a completely new revolution of open source software that will be needed for these. Computing at the edge devices, computing in the cloud, managing the infrastructure of the cloud, everything will be software driven. In automobiles, today, there are more lines of code that you have than Windows 10. Did you know that? A modern car has more lines of code than Windows 10. But those are embedded code. It's a different type of code. This is becoming proprietary and being used in proprietary ways. For example, if you think of the code which decides how much of fuel is to be injected in an engine of an automobile, so that as a car company you can hire Bosch or somebody to develop that for you. calibrating that code takes a few years. The minimum is 8 to 9 months. They will keep the engine running and keep on tuning those parameters in the software until you get the right fuel efficiency and the right emission. And they are going to charge you an arm and leg for that. And they will not give you the code. So next time when you just make a small change in your engine, you go back to them. Right? Think of the train communication. Today modern trains, and India is trying to invest in that in a big way, will have communication for collecting data from the wheels, from the suspension. There will be communication for passenger information. There will be communication for train control, automatic braking. But the Siemens and the Hitachis will give you only proprietary solutions. Nothing is open. Even the components, the software, everything is a closed solution. Which means that if you buy one coach from Hitachi and one coach from Siemens, you will not be able to put them together in one train. See, this is where we will head unless we can bring in open source software in this domain. It is extremely important for a country like India to bring the cost down, that we should have our own mission of developing open source software and systems. Right? This is from just a perspective. Now, what you want to do in that is, of course, your own area. Thank you for making a very good presentation. We always talk about the atrocities that are committed. We never talk about the other problems, which you have very nicely highlighted. I remember a time many years ago when a student of our department, when she was in her final year, she opted to change to another department, precisely from computer science to agriculture. And that was unheard of. Every computer science student was completely stunned. Why is this lady wanting to change from computer science to agriculture? And she was not a weak student. She was doing reasonably well in her undergraduate studies. She was doing very well in theatre because she was in the Bengali dramatics, and she even won a special mention award in the Spring Fest. She was a very good vocalist and used to bag prizes for that, and yet there she was wanting to shift from computer science to agriculture in her final year and willing to spend another 3 years in agriculture. Now, being one of the kind of friendlier research scholars in the department at that time, the head asked me that, can you have a word with her and find out what is bugging her? And that was exactly what you had said, that she was alone in a department where there were mostly male students. She did not have the company, and company is very important. I have learned a whole lot of things from my friends in my batch. Students who probably did not get the same grades as I did, but I learned a lot from them. That is very important. And I also appeal to the deputy director that apart from all the academic spaces that we create, it is very important to create social spaces. Spaces where students can sit, spend some time. If you go to the university campus of Berkeley, there is a very big social space at the top of a hill from where you can see the entire bay and the Golden Gate Bridge at the opposite side of the bridge. It's a beautiful site. There are a few eateries, and it's just open space where you can sit down and discuss. In our case, it's a bit more tricky because it is very hot and humid weather, not like Berkeley, but then still we need such social spaces. I have requested the administration several times, and I'm sure that in future we will have those spaces. And that to some extent will address your problem, but your problem is really difficult, and I really, I'm very happy that you have taken up a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the session. So I request you to stay back for 8 minutes. Please. We will be having the last hour of this session by Professor Adarjit Goswami, Chairman ERP and Dean of Continuing Education. Professor has heard many things about ERP futuristic project, so we'll talk about it. And after that, we'll have a project by Krishi, like it's a Tinder analog to KGP domain. So people are interested in this can stay there. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Professor Siman Bhattacharya, Deputy Director, Professor Pallab Dasgupta, my colleague, my dear students. One thing at first I will admit, I should tell when ERP was started long back, I think 2008 or 9, no one was interested. Professor Arun Banerjee started it, he was going to the departments, please help us, we try to develop certain things. And by that way it was developed by some temporary people, those who had taken under project, and very recently we have made some permanent employees. We have now around 15-16 employees of different cadre, and some are there who are still in the project. Effectively, when it started and now, we have come to certain stages. I think till 2 years back also, you have seen one thing. Before the Senate, you all know what are the CGPA, what are the grades you are downloading, right? Have you downloaded it or not? Yes or no? We all know it. But it has stopped now, I think. Now you are not able to do it. Now you are not able to do it. Just I'm giving you example. So, yes or no, still tell us, because you should give us the feedback, then only we can plug in. Otherwise it becomes very difficult for us. So we have started our journey. But again, at the beginning, as I was telling, in the development of the ERP, I think no one has consulted the students. It's very true. It's very true, no one has consulted them. Whether they have certain requirement or not, they want something or not, we never bothered. You are talking about the CDC. You are talking about the academics. What you was mentioning, that which courses will be offered, who are the teachers, if you know, it's nothing. It's just by a simple thing we can do it. But it was never told to ERP that you please do it. Because ERP's mandate is mostly whatever is being told by the concerned authority, ERP implements that one. For CDC also, same thing. Whenever it was developed, then after that, CDC also never told these things, that students are facing this type of problems. Although I know there is a time gap, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, we are trying to reduce that thing. I hope within next few months it will improve. We are working on that one. So regarding CDC, really I will look into the matter. This was never told to us that students are facing this kind of problems. So I will request wherever students require something, they should tell the corresponding their authorities. Like regarding academics, if you have to say something, either talk with Dean UG, Dean PG, and tell you want this thing. Or even if you can directly come to ERP, that if this thing is there, it will be good for the students. We will really try to implement that part. This much I can assure you. And I will remember this thing, that whenever there will be some student-related matters, I will try to consult students also, at least the design part and ultimately what you want. This was not in my mind also earlier, because we were talking always with the officers or the faculties or the deans what they want, and accordingly we implement it. But student is a major stakeholder for this one. Regarding project, one ready-made project is there. If you wish, you can take up the challenge. That is timetable for both our exam timetable as well as normal timetable implementation. We are not finding any suitable algorithm which helps our requirements. Like one simple example I am giving you, that is, we want to optimize the time also, because student has to move around from one place to another place. That distance should be minimized. So, like that way, various factors are there. Students, there are so many classes, especially in the timetable. Even if a student has to give exam in consecutive 3 times, maybe in 2 days 3 exams, like that, we are not able to solve that problem except increasing the number of days or like that. This is a big problem. And if you want, I talked with some students. I told them, you please take up the challenge. They can anytime take up the challenge. We have funds. We can provide some stipend to the students always. Like this way, we are trying to develop some apps. What he was talking about CDCs. Through apps, the app mainly we are trying to do it for the alumnus, those who will get the degree, and also for the CDC. So many notices are coming to the degree holders, and either they have to open it and then only they can do it, they can see those things. If we can develop some app so that automatically whenever you are registering on it and you are opening it, automatically all the notices and other things will come to you directly. This most probably in this July, whenever there will be convocation for the degree holders, we will do that so that they don't have to check what is going on. Each and every notice they can view it through that apps. Similarly, for CDC also, we are trying to make something like that, through which all the notices, whatever CDC gives, directly will come to you. You don't have to enter into your ERP login. Of course, initially you are logging in from your mobile. So these things will come. So like that way, so many problems are there because we have certain constraints. Our manpower is less. Our technologies are not sufficient. We are trying to hire up some people from industry, those who are having 20 years, 25 years experience in the industry. Because we want to make ERP as an ISO, as Pallab was saying, we want to make it a product and some open source kind. That means already we are talking with some institutes like NIT Durgapur, NIT Sikkim, and 2-3 more institutes, where what we are planning, we will give them initially 1 year, 2 years the support, we will give them the software also, so that after 2 years they can become self-sufficient, they can run it of their own. So we have a lot of problems. We can share it with the students and also we can give you the stipend. But really this is a good initiative overall, I will tell. Especially for the women also, whatever you have thought of, it's really, really good. Just like for JEE, the percentage of women will increase. Some extra percentage will come from this year up to a certain level. We may think of certain quotas in the projects also for the women, where women participation has to be mandatory, that they have to take, or for them separately some projects may be there. We should really think about it. But again, I am thanking all the students for taking such a great initiative, and I can assure you, ERP will help you always. One thing is there, I should share. Our ERP is the own house production. In every Senate, you are changing the academic rules, and we have to change in the ERP, right? So many curricula is going on together. This guy is in some curricula, this guy on that curricula, like that way. So changes are happening every day. For Bombay IIT, I am just giving you the example. Bombay IIT given their ERP system to some company, I am not naming it, in 32.5 crores. in total 5 years production. In last November, for 1 month it was totally down. They could not do anything. Pallav was telling that nowadays they are not giving you the code. So if I have to make a small change, I have to pay money for that. At least our ERP is not like that way. On that way, we are still better. But another challenge, that is the menus. Pallav knows it. Getting menus is very difficult. We are trying to do something so that very easily I can find out what I want. Because if I have to do something, I have to go here, there, like that way. I also don't remember. So this is a major problem. We are trying to find out the solution. If you have any solution, you please come forward with that. That is another problem. Because now we have hundreds and hundreds of menus for various persons. And it is very difficult for us. So please think of it. Get in touch with ERP. I will tell the other students also. If they sometimes discuss with us, I think we can make it much better, much presentable. And also simultaneously, we want to help other institutes also by this way. Because this is a really good system. Thank you for the initiative. Yeah, please.
On behalf of the students. Sure. So I think what the students were actually hinting at is that whether you could make available part of the not so sensitive data in a mirror from where they can build apps on their own.
Just like that, we are giving support to our website. Website is regularly taking data from us. That is real-time basis. So like that way, if it is there which are not sensitive,
then we can have
always we can give the data. That can be done. That is not a problem. Because we are providing service to so many other places also. Like that.
Thank you, sir. Like, last one talk is left. If you want to say that. हाँ सर ऋषि GCM स्टूडेंट वेलफेयर या लास्ट टॉक भाई
Thank you, Sheila. This is actually an idea that we guys got in the welfare domain that we think we should implement. And since all the developers are here, I would like to share it with you guys so that you give an inputs and suggest ways how we need to go forward with it. Are we ready with the PPT? Okay. The name that I've got is KGP Connect. That is completely similar to a Tinder app if you guys used it. Has anybody used Tinder? Like, you didn't use Tinder. Okay, cool. So it's similar to that. A platform where you make stranger friends. Okay, why do we actually need it? The campus, as the woman also told that they are very lonely and stuff. So that's one place where we need. Okay, there's this problem that everybody doesn't find themselves in one of the other servers in campus. There's always some person who's left lonely. So they need to actually make friends, and I think this application actually serves it. We'll go through it, how it will be able to do. There's something else as well. KGPNs actually lack a lot of that communication skills. That's clear. Even if we have Communica and many other societies, if you go into a stranger, we don't know how to introduce ourselves, we don't know how to make new friends. And this app actually solves that, because you're meeting a stranger and you're making friends with them. There are a lot of people who wish to explore, like if you're in a metro city and stuff, you go to a mall, you meet new people, you hang out and you make like your fun. So if somebody has such intentions, this app will help you. That's it. You can go next. How does it actually work? Like how did we plan that it will work? Go next. Okay. Every student who wishes to be on the app can create a profile, and all the information will be there, like email address, phone number, like your roll number and stuff. But all of that will be confidential. Like no other user can access the server. What will be open to the world is just your interest and why you are on the app. Like it will be a proper description, and that will actually be reviewed by the people who are running the app, like who are at the backend of the app, because there's every chance that you might yourself write a name in the open space. So we'll go next. Activity. How does this actually work? If you say that you want to use this app or you need to meet new people, you switch your status to yes, and then you get a matrix of all the people who are interested to meet new people. So you'll be actually selecting people based on the interests that they share or the intention with which they want to meet new people. So you go to that and express, like UI is expression of interest. So you will express an interest to a person, like I see a profile with cricket, football and basketball, and I'm a sports enthusiast. I'll just say, yeah, I'll request. And then I get the time, date and venue matrix, and all of these are regulated, like it will be from 7 to 10 p.m. so that there will be some members of the Institute Wellness group that we guys have to regulate safety and security of people using this application. Dates will be open, and venue will also be like specific, like CCD or Lakeside or something like that, so that we can actually have security, like there will be no security issues with that. So a person, if who's expressing his interest, can select 3 to 10 options, and once this is done, since everything is anonymous, a person who is expressing interest has an option to set a nickname for the person whom he is sending the request, because else later on you go to the negotiation dashboard and you will see all anonymous things. You don't know whom you send a request and stuff. So a user can actually set a nickname to the person who is expressing interest to. I can go next. So you send the request to a person, you get 3 options. Like the person who is receiving a request gets 3 options. There'll be accept, decline or negotiate. If it's an accept, then you'll be able to choose the slot from the options that the other user has provided, and then the appointment gets booked. And there'll be an option to introduce. Like if both the people are too shy to go and meet strangers, you can just click option to introduce, where an IWG member pops in the between and strikes the conversation. There's something else called as automatically add to the calendar, which they can select. Yeah. Availability of the person to meet new people will still be on, but the slot that he has chosen will be booked for his own profile. Okay, this is all about when you accept. When you decline, the user who sent the request will be politely replied with a kind message so that you won't be hurt. In the negotiate option, the user who is receiving the request gets the matrix again. So now this time it's his chance to set the options, and it will be a loop. You can go next. This is a dashboard where you will actually have a column of negotiations, appointments, meets, and new requests. So new request part is anyways this, you can accept, reject, or negotiate. Negotiations, these are the people whom you actually send requests, and they are the nicknames that you set to them. In the appointments, that will be accepted by both users. Which will be the people you already met. There will be no column for rejections because you feel low. Go next. There will be something called as feedback, because I think this app should be constructively used. And so after you meet a person, you should also give feedback about the other person, about his or her communication skills or any other thing, about their personal experience, how they felt using this app, and then about IWG and KGP Connect, so that will be useful for us to propagate forward. Feedback will not be given directly to the person, it will be actually rearranged and reframed on the people who are in the back. You can go next. There are 2 other special options that we wish to give. That will be immediate talk, which means people who are depressed or stressed or who wish to express their immediate outrage can actually use this option, where they can select gender, like there's only one option of selecting gender. Location and set time will be set by the user, and a person from IWG will be like Institute Wellness Group who is already trained in mental health and how to deal with people and their emotions and how to solve these things. Will go and address that thing. Okay. There's something else called as intimate talk. If you wish to express your story or something to somebody who's so intimate, you will be actually provided with the matrix of IWG members who will be already trained in that aspect, and they'll go forward and speak to them. So these 2 things, intimate talk and immediate talk, are already in use in IIT Madras by 2 organizations. We're actually taking inputs from them to improve on how our students should be ready to accept the same. We call it layman counseling, where a student counsels another student and helps them. Since a counseling center has just 3 counselors right now, whereas we're supposed to have 1:10 ratio, which means for a campus of 12,000 students, you need to have like 1:1,000 ratio, which means 12 counselors, but we still have 3. So we're lacking manpower, and to compensate with the same, we need to have layman counseling. So these two are very important things. Oh, next. Yes, sir. So future plans will be group meets, just like the demo days that they have, where they come forward to discuss ideas that can actually be posted up through this app. Next. Does anybody have questions or suggestions to what's put here?
There's an anonymous chat app already. It's called 2.2. It was made by Ashish, like, I think last semester.
Exactly.
It blocked though. Like,
Yeah.
No one uses it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, like, the first idea, like, I also come across 2.2, but then I didn't want to keep it to the mobile interface at all. Like, there should be more of interpersonal communication going on. The second thing is, you cannot expect applications like this to sustain, because there's, like, once you made a good friend, you don't need another one. Like, even if I launch this app or something like that, I don't think that will be continuous usage of the same. Like, so, like, if a person meets a new person, and like, if he might use it twice or thrice, he'll make 2-3 new friends. He might stop using the app. So if there's new people coming in, yeah, we can actually expect that flow to continue. But then I don't see. Thank you. I thank all the professors for their valuable time. Thanks a lot.